Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here at my next Legend of Korra video, and this one is going to be my kind of preview lead into Book 4 Balance, what I think is going to happen, some of my predictions and stuff like that. Yeah, so Book 4 Balance is obviously going to premiere October 3rd. They haven't yet announced the details of the premiere, but it's either going to be 1 or 2 episodes more than likely. Digital release as expected. I think Nick on Twitter have said that right now, still like a few days away from the premiere, their plan is 1 episode, which I definitely would appreciate. So that seems pretty cool, because at the end of the day, Book 4 Balance is the last book of Korra. This is the last one we're going to have for Korra, and I think it's important that they kind of give it the time it deserves and don't just kind of rush it out like 3 episode premiere, 2 episodes every week after that or something like that. That I really would like to just like pretty much for the first time ever just get one a week the whole time through. Don't do a 2-part ending. Don't do a 2-part start. Just one a week and just let the fans savor this from week to week. Analyze all of the cliffhangers and stuff like that. I want the full fan experience this time around. After book 3 was just this roller coaster ride, as quick as possible through the first half of the book. Slowed down a bit towards the end, but still it was really quick. And honestly, I do feel like book 4 is airing like a little bit too quickly, just in terms of I'm still processing book 3. In that, on the podcast we usually give ourselves probably like a month or two, and then we go back and review book 3 as a whole, because it gives us the time to get away from the initial hype after the book ends, and then just rewatch it and kind of come at it kind of fresh, our general thoughts on the book overall. This time round, we're having to kind of rush in a rewatch and get the podcast out this Sunday to get it out before book 4 actually airs. And we just feel a little bit rushed, and yeah, I still haven't kind of fully formed my thoughts on book 3, and now I'm going into the last book of Korra. It's an unusual situation to be in, where we've had so many long waits, and all of a sudden we get the shortest wait ever. But anyway, it is coming. Overall, I should be pretty much prepared for the book. And now, yeah, what do I think is going to happen? Obviously, first it's important to know what has actually been said about book 4 Balance. 1, it's called Balance. 2, it's going to be 13 episodes. So obviously this will be the last 13 episodes of Korra, and will bring the series total up to 52 episodes. So not quite as many as Avatar had with 61, but in the end it will have come pretty close to that overall, so that's pretty fun. As expected, like has been the case for all the books of Korra, it is going to tell its own story. It's going to be linked into the other books, obviously, in some ways, but fundamentally it's going to be its own story. We're going to have a new villain and stuff like that. In terms of what we've seen so far, we've seen one clip from the first episode. Obviously, Nick put that up. We earned that on Coronation. And then Nick also, in a trailer for book 3, accidentally put out a few scenes featuring Kuvira, who is obviously the Zaufu captain of the guard, who revealed her name to Tonrock. And we see her in that trailer. I won't go in depth on that, just in case you consider it a spoiler, but we don't know a massive amount going into the book. So I think the only real way to kind of go through this, because I really have no idea on the plot, is just to kind of talk about what I expect from each of the characters. So let's start with Korra, main character, title character. She obviously has the most clear setup for what's going to happen with her in the next book, just because she's in the wheelchair as of the start of book 4. We see that in the clip. She's going back to her home in the Southern Water Tribe to kind of be on her own for a while and continue her recovery with her family and stuff like that. So that should be very interesting to see the specifics of how long this lasts. She's obviously dealing with nightmares and stuff like that because she was nearly killed, the Avatar nearly ended and stuff like that. She seems to be suffering a little bit from post-traumatic stress disorder, and just general kind of fear, and that she was nearly killed. She's in a bad situation. She's so used to being active, and now she's kind of confined to a wheelchair. It's a situation she's not used to, and you definitely understand why she's so kind of kind of heard about the whole thing. And yeah, it's just kind of wonder like what's going to happen early on in the book with Korra separated from most of the main characters. Obviously, she's got her family around her and stuff like that, but how long is this going to last? We've obviously seen her book 4 outfit, and we know that she heals at some point. But what promotes that healing? And I think that links into one of the pieces of information we found out before. I think Janet Varney tweeted one day, a couple of many months ago, it's probably over a year ago, nearly at this stage, that she had a great session with Eva Marie Saint, who obviously is the voice actress for Katara in this series. So that suggests that Korra and Katara are going to have another kind of big talking scene together, which they haven't really had since book 1. Like at the end of book 1, they were kind of together. You know, Katara said she couldn't heal Korra, but fundamentally their only conversation really took place as Korra went to leave early on in book 1 in the first episode, and Katara talked about how, you know, it's time for your generation to save the world and stuff like this. So I'd like to get a kind of comeback to that conversation after, you know, 3 books have passed in book 4, and just see what Katara says to Korra to maybe in some way help her, maybe snap her out of the kind of situation she's in, heal her, or just promote the change from Korra in book 1 outfit in wheelchair to super intense new haircut, new look, intensity Korra that we've seen. What I think right now the only thing seems to be that this Katara talk, maybe something from her parents helps as well, but you know it may link into something like that. Korra maybe should have healed a bit quicker, but this whole the fact that she's thinking about it so much, she's dreaming, having nightmares about it, maybe that's what's keeping her back. It's kind of like a mental kind of block of her energy from healing or something like that, and once she gets past that, she will be fully healed or something like that. That would be an interesting journey to see Korra go on early on in the book before she kind of becomes active again. Then, that's like the physical kind of journey, but with regards to like the mental stuff, the big thing book 3 presented to us with that hallucination scene towards the end where she saw the Red Lotus members as all the villains she's encountered so far, you know, Amon, Unalaq, Vatu, and obviously the Red Lotus themselves. All of these villains have in some way dealt with the fact that they feel like the era of the Avatar is over and that there's no place in the world for the Avatar. And given what Korra has experienced, you know, nearly being killed by nearly all of these villains and having to like suffer so much to deal with these villains, maybe she's actually starting to believe that, and maybe she has maybe lost faith that the world actually needs its Avatar and is maybe ready to give up or something like that. And then the conversation with Katara maybe helps her get past this, and the look of intensity on her face here and the seeming like real drive that she has in this image of her in her book 4 design maybe is her to prove to the world that it actually needs its Avatar. And maybe the rest of Team Avatar are off on their own dealing with the conflict, some conflict that comes up while Korra is injured. Maybe this is where the Kuvira kind of turn happens and she becomes the kind of villain as we suspect, and Korra's kind of still recovering and is left with the rest of Team Avatar, maybe the new air nomads, to deal with her. Maybe she's too powerful and they kind of need Korra back, but she thinks the world doesn't need her anymore because obviously Tenzin and the air nomads have stepped in to help her, like Raiko and stuff like that have been like against the Avatar, all of this stuff, and something just prompts the return of Korra as the Avatar. It has the potential for a really big moment to happen. Now, when this happens is the key thing. Like, does it happen very early on, like episode 3 or 4, or does it more happen towards the end of the book and she really has like a big kind of spiritual, emotional journey throughout most of the book? I would assume it happens kind of before the kind of middle, before the halfway point of the book, that this happens, just because I can't see them keeping our main character out of like full-on action for that long. But still, I suspect something like that is going to happen, and I'd really like something like that happens, where she really has to deal with the fact that the world doesn't think they need an avatar anymore. And with the book called Balance, the only thing I can see her dealing with, in addition to the Kavira thing, is that she brings balance to humans and spirits, that she finally makes that big connection that brings humans and spirits together, or something like that. But again, we're really not sure what's going on. Next, Mako. Really, I have no idea what to expect from Mako in the book. I assume he's going to go back to his job, police officer and stuff like that, and maybe when some conflict happens, he will kind of join Team Avatar, or just leading to the police force will try and stop whatever the case is, and maybe there won't be enough, and maybe something like he'll be the one to maybe get Korra kind of to join them once again, or something like that. Um, the end of book 3 had slight hints towards kind of some Korra moments, and I'm not going to just say there's no way that their relationship is just. I'm just not going to say that their relationship is for sure over 100%. I still think there's a chance that something may happen and they may get back together at some point. Um, but again, I'm not really 100% sure about what Mako's going to do in the book, other than go back to being a police officer, and maybe I kind of think there has to be some sort of a scene between him, Asami, and Korra where they kind of just talk about what happened and maybe kind of just resolve it there and then, and he fully kind of gets over the issues that he has with the girls and that they have with him, or whatever. But other than that, I really don't know what to expect from him at all. Bolin. Obviously in book 3, his key points were that, one, he seems to be dating Opal, and I don't know how that's going to work with obviously Opal going kind of around the world as a air nomad now. How their relationship is actually working right now. They have had a tendency with Bolin to kind of give him a love interest in the book and then take it away, as has been the case with Eska in book 2. They kind of made him part of the love triangle in 1, and Opal here. I hope they don't break up, and I hope they are still together, but I'd almost kind of like it if there was a scene where Eska and Opal met kind of in front of Bolin or something like that, and he kind of has to deal with the fact that he likes both of these girls or something like that, maybe. But that may be a bit too much shipping stuff. The other thing that happened was that his big kind of strong moment in the book was him learning that he's a lava bender, that there is something special about him, he's a lava bender. I'm not really sure what they're going to do with lava bending in book 4, especially with Bolin, just because while it was cool that he got the ability almost kind of doesn't suit his personality. Like, he's such a kind of funny, laid back kind of guy, and for him to have this ability that is just really like a lot of destruction, a lot of destructive capabilities in it, and that even if he only minorly uses it, he's going to damage a lot of things, and then if he kind of goes crazy with it in a fight, he has the potential to injure everyone around him. Like, just look at the amount of damage Gazan did in the last book, taking down Walter Bossing Say, he took down the Northern Air Temple, all this sort of stuff. And now that power is in Bolin's hands. So unless he like develops some new skill and some new way to use it where it's like not as dangerous or something like that, I don't really know what they're going to do with the lava bending. I assume he may like keep from using it in most fights, but then if it's a really tough fight, he may use it. But again, I'm not really sure what to expect. Will he go back to being a mover star, or what? I'm not sure what to expect. Obviously, Varric's kind of back in things again. Maybe they kind of team up again, and the movers comes back. There's obviously his family's around and stuff like that. So maybe we'll see more scenes with him and his family, and that could add into Mako as well. But again, I'm not really sure what to expect from Bolin at all. But I do hope there are some nice scenes between him and Opal, just because I really do like their kind of relationship. Asami, I think she really needs a story of her own in this book. She had one in book 1, and it was cool, the thing with her father and her siding with the benders and just not kind of buying into her father's hatred of them and stuff like that. It was a really strong kind of small arc in book one. She had something going on with Varric in book two, but it kind of fell to the wayside a bit. And in book three, while she was very interesting, that she had some nice moments in the desert, and it was cool to see her and Korra be friends throughout, she didn't really have a story of her own, and so I hope she gets one in book four. And for me, I think they have to return to her father, because throughout the last like two books, they really have addressed the fact that she hasn't gone to visit her father in prison. When Mako was imprisoned, she didn't want to see him in prison and get the reminder. She seemed a bit more like eager to kind of talk about her father at points, in book three. I think she mentioned him. So maybe something like that will happen. I think we've heard that Daniel Day Kim is returning, and he said like Hiroshi will be back at some point. So I think it's important that that happen. Like there's obviously potential that if she hasn't gone to see her father, that with the whole airbender thing, maybe he became an airbender. Like it's out there, and like it kind of almost doesn't make sense, but at the same time, he becomes the very thing he hates and becomes an airbender or something like that accidentally. There's the potential for that to happen. But primarily, I think his time in prison and the fact that his daughter hasn't gone to see him will change him, and maybe he will see kind of how much she's kind of been helped by the fact that she has been friends with benders and stuff like that. I think it's important that she does have a scene with her father. It's important, just so that they don't do the same mistake that they had with Avatar: The Last Airbender, where Toph's whole story was set up to be something with her parents, and then they didn't do it, and then had to address it in the comic. Obviously, the rift that's coming out right now. So it's important that they do that. And other than that, I don't know what they're going to do with her. Again, I am with Team Avatar. The way it's separated with Korra off on her own and the rest of them staying in the city, I'm unsure about what they're really going to do. Next up, Tenzin. Obviously, he's leading the Air Nation right now, and he's obviously decided that they're going to kind of fill in for Korra while she's recovering, and they're going to travel the world and help people and stuff like that. Maybe there'll be a few like logistical problems about the fact that only he and Jinora are master airbenders, and they're going to be needed to train groups all across the world, and so how exactly does that work? And again, it's hard to know what his role overall in the book is going to be. Like, will he help like Korra get over what she's dealing with right now, or what? Or is he kind of going to have an arc in this book where he's finally kind of made that decision, where he's doing kind of like what he always kind of wanted to do to kind of help his father? He's kind of technically in that kind of Avatar role right now, where he and the new air nomads is a great thing that he helped and his father always wanted, but that they're also helping the Avatar while the Avatar is unable to help, or something like that. So other than that, I'm not really sure. So we'll move on to Jinora. Now, for me, I have a lot of hope for Jinora in book 4, just because she got the big celebration moment at the end of book 3. She got the big character development moment. She's a Master Airbender now, and they're the youngest Master Airbender ever. I think she has to become a main character now. I think she has to make that step up and almost kind of become that, like, kind of fifth member of Team Avatar. I want her to have a big role in the book. I'd like her and Kai to get more kind of screen time together and stuff like that. And maybe with Korra kind of off on her own, she will have a lot more screen time. Maybe she will be like one of the more focused on characters, even more so than maybe some of the other members of Team Avatar, because I kind of get the sense that she will be in a position where she will be kind of leading a lot of the kind of air nomads to help people, maybe in Republic City, under the guidance of Tenzin, and will have to have an important role. But again, it's hard to know for sure what overall she's going to be doing in the book, because we know so little overall. And the same roughly applies for Kai. I hope he wasn't just a book 3 character and that he is actually in book 4. I kind of suspect that he is, just because I think they have mentioned his voice actor a little bit. It's the same with a lot of the new book 3 characters. Like I hope Su Yin and her family, especially Opal, are in the book. Uh, Other than the kind of setup almost that Toph is still alive, she's out there, and maybe the idea of a reunion that Toph at some stage comes back suddenly, and Elaine and Toph kind of get that moment that Su Yin and Toph already kind of had, as she spoke about. I think that's an important scene maybe to happen. And you could obviously do some humorous stuff with the idea that Bo Elaine is basically Toph's biggest fan and stuff like that. You could play up some of the stuff now that Toph's one of Toph's grandchildren is an airbender, when she always kind of teased Aang about being like Twinkle Toes. There's so much potential for the return of Toph for sure if they did it. So I'd like them to do that for sure. Kuvira herself, I have no idea, just because we know so little about her as a character. She's captain of the guard. It is important to note when you look back through book 3 of Korra that she's actually in the show a decent amount. When they first go to Zhaofu, she's part of that kind of interpretive dance with metal bending thing. One of the newspapers, you can see that her face is in the newspaper, and she does get a few lines over the course of the book and stuff like that. So maybe she ends up being kind of a undercover Red Lotus member or something like that, and she does something, but I'm not really sure. Zuko, I hope, is in the book because, as most people want, everyone wants to meet Zuko's daughter just to see who she is and get some of that interaction, maybe find out who her mother is and stuff like that. We want to find that out for sure. So Zuko, I'd like to see involved at least somewhat. Then continuing on the trend of kind of Avatar: The Last Airbender stuff, I do think it's fairly important that maybe they address some of Sokka's history. Just like, did he have any kids? Where are his kids? Did he marry Suki or what? That sort of stuff. I'd like them to address that just before Korra comes to an end. And then other characters, like Zahir's obviously in prison, so he's still got the potential to maybe be in the show again. Maybe the idea of maybe Korra or someone going to visit him in prison and like get some advice or something like that from him would be cool, but again, I'm not really sure. In regards to some plots, I think the loss of the past avatars, Korra's connection to the past avatars, is going to come back up. I think this may be a way to finally like fully end one of these books in a very, very kind of overall happy, positive way with no kind of loss happening or anything like that. Because for me, it makes sense within this universe that there is the potential for these past lives to come back at some point. Just because it's just her connection to them that's destroyed, and they could maybe do something with regards to like the Tree of Time, the portals, or something like that that brings the past lives back. I guess just because I think Korra's role throughout the books of Avatar has kind of been, she's been the person who's always wanted to be the Avatar, while Aang was the reluctant Avatar. And the difference was that kind of Aang doubted himself at the start and kind of became more confident throughout. Korra started off super confident and has kind of almost lost confidence, gained it, lost it again throughout. And I'd kind of just like that moment where the past avatars kind of return and just kind of say that you have done like a very good job. You've kind of accomplished enough that you kind of have your own legend now, kind of like the Legend of Aang is the kind of UK name for the Avatar: The Last Airbender. Why this show is called The Legend of Korra is because she actually made a legend for herself with everything she did. I think that would be cool to do. Then I'm trying to think of anything else to talk about really. Like returning characters, like I think everyone wants to see Tano again. There's maybe potential for that, but I don't really know. Obviously, we're going to see Katara at some point. That's pretty much confirmed. Other than that, it's really hard to just like really think where this show is going to go, because this is the final book of Korra. It's going to have its own story, and it's also going to have to bring the series as a whole to an end. So it's got a lot of things to do. It's got new villains to introduce, new character arcs to do. It's got a lot to do for just 13 episodes. And then we know Varric, so this is an important one to mention. We know he's going to do, at some point, talk about his past. I don't know where this is going to come up, but he had a pretty disappointing showing in book 3, I think, just because he wasn't in the book enough. So him appearing in book 4 should, I think, have a good run on this. Maybe explain how he and Julie met or something like that. Explain where his wealth like fully comes from, and stuff like that is important. And with him, maybe you have the potential to, as a lot of people suspect, the question comes up: is Korra going to do like Avatar did and have an Ember Island Players-esque episode? So the obvious thing set up in Korra for that would be that Varric kind of makes this movers kind of a film about the team's journey or something like that. I think that would be a really kind of cool thing to do. Just this idea that he invites them to this premiere just before like the finale, and they watch this movers thing with actors playing them on screen kind of visually instead of it being a play. That would be a cool idea to do. I don't know if they'll do it, but it kind of seems too perfect of an idea not to do. But again, who knows what's going to happen in this book? It's hard to know, and how will they end it as well? Like, right now, there's no relationship set up to end the show kind of with that kind of romance scene. So right now, the only thing I can think of for the way they're going to end the book is that they have the past avatars return and just have that full moment of, Korra is the avatar she always wanted to be, or something like that. But yeah, right now that's my preview. With no trailer to go on to base like any further speculation on, it's hard to really tell. So if a trailer does come out like next week or something like that before the premiere, I'm definitely going to put up a video analysing it and updating, like my preview with some extra thoughts. But right now, that's all I have to say pretty much.